Hey guys, welcome back to Reborn Radio. I just wanted to quickly mention before we continue our discussion of technology, and Chase was bringing this up last time, but I want to talk about, when we're talking about technology, I want to make sure that we make clear that Andrew uses technology. Okay, like Chase, I want to let Chase tell the story. Actually, would you like to elaborate, Chase?
Oh yes, this is a favorite one of mine.
Go ahead.
Speaking of technology,
Sorry, Andrew.
yeah,
I'm feel bad.
Wow.
I'm feeling bad. I haven't even started yet. But yes, speaking of technology, I'm pretty sure Andrew is definitely most interested in hearing about this subject, particularly due to the fact that he's had a few difficulties, if you will. I distinctly remember this one time where we were trying to play a game, and he was coming to us with a particular problem that nothing would display on his monitor, his computer monitor, that is. And we
Thanks
shut
for
off.
clarifying that, Chase, because I had no idea what monitor we were talking about.
Exactly, just exactly what I mean.
You sound bitter, Andrew. Could you tell us about
that? Yeah, I'm good, Alex. Yeah, keep going, Chase. Keep going.
But we, of course, quickly shot off solutions that, especially the really big technology people like me and our friend Scott, we tend to be the tech support, and yet none of the solutions were quite working. The good news is that in a week or two, I forget, in a week or two, Alex is actually going to be visiting Andrew in his home. And so we decided that Alex, being pretty competent with these issues himself, could have a actual chance to physically see it and poke at it and see what the issue was. And yeah, tell us what you found.
Andrew, you gotta plug the monitor in, man.
So here's actually what happened. So now that they've built up this ridiculously fallacious, phony story that I didn't have my monitor plugged in. Dude, it was plugged into the wall. Dude, you don't even remember what happened. You don't even recall what happened. Let me tell you exactly what happened.
And it just
Silence.
Came on.
Let me explain to our fantastic, sympathetic viewers what exactly happened here.
Yeah,
so I was having issues with anything displaying on my monitor. I would turn on the monitor. It was plugged in, and here's how I knew, Alex, because it would come in and it would show that there was no input. It would clearly say there is no input into the monitor, and it would just go black. I knew it was on because the light was on the power button. So here's what I did. I unplugged. Is it the what? I don't know what thing's called. I am not as technologically, the VGA cable. So I unplugged the VGA cable. That's
called a VGA cable, Andrew.
Went and bought a new one, Alex. Plugged in the new one, still didn't work. Plugged in the old one. You were over at my house, and I said, "Hey, man, I've tried to replace the VGA cable. I don't know what's happening." You literally unplugged it and plugged the VGA cable back in, and it started working. So, just so we have that straight for the record, I wanted to make sure we get that on.
I'm sorry, guys. My bad. It wasn't
I'm a little hurt here because he never told me any of this. Didn't even come to me for help. And hey, I was on a robotics team. I know my technology, okay? And he didn't even ask me for help.
No offense, Connor. I saw the robot, and I didn't want my computer to get up and start chasing balls around the floor. So.
It reminds me of a good joke. How if staying there in the kitchen with your wife. For those of you who are married, staying your wife, you tell a joke, you laugh, your wife laughs, the toaster laughs, you shoot the toaster. It's all good.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that everyone had a little bit of fun at my expense.
We always do.
Yes, Chase. Thank you. Real quick. Oh, you know what? Next time we have Chase on, we'll tell some stories from the days at College Plus, and none of those puts you in a good light, Chase. So let's be sure to remember.
Probably not, because I don't remember any of them. So.
yeah. Anyways, before we get back on our main topic of theology discussion, I wanted to bring up something that I have to talk about real quick. If you guys remember last week when we got together, we started off by talking about the catfish story, the remains of a Nazi officer being found in a catfish. So I did some more browsing on this website, the worldnewsdailyreport.com, which is you talk about fake news. This is the ultimate.
That just sounds like a tabloid.
It is. It's ultimate fake news, and I found this great one. And this is what makes it. So it's Mexico. 200 pounds of cocaine found in washed up whale, and basically they play. They
It's
play
so
the
bad.
story. They play the story like they're trying to smuggle cocaine in the U.S. in a whale. Here's the best part. Here's the best part, dude. Everyone in the comments buys it 100%. Like, here's
really
one.
big.
Sad to see the extent to which nincompoops could run to drive addiction and money. So sad. And another one. Good grief, this poor innocent whale. Someone has to have serious issues to do that to a gorgeous whale or any animal to smuggle their drugs. They must have put a tracking device in the drugs so they could find the whale again. Then would they have to kill it to get their drugs? These people need help. Who does that other than addicts? So sad. So this is one of
Hashtag
the
so sad.
this is one of the downsides of technology is you can pretty much fool anyone, even me. I mean, I was completely fooled by World News Daily Report, but seriously, no one in the comments goes, you guys know this is like a fake satire website, right? No, every single person completely buys that a Mexican gang stuffed 200 pounds of cocaine in a whale and tried to smuggle it into the U.S.
Yeah. So that's one of the things about technology that's kind of interesting is the fact that there's so much information readily available, but something that one of the detriments is like so many people just take it and like don't even think about it. They just take it as is, and so there's all these different things that get posted, like this whale and this catfish and all this other stuff that gets out there. And I mean, this right now is harmless, but then there's things out there that can be very harmful that are put out there.
Right.
Things that can honestly damage somebody's opinions on things or their perspectives on life.
Yeah.
And people just buy it, and it can really be a detriment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in the election there was some pretty interesting results that came out about how both sides, there were conservative and liberal websites that were posting, especially on Facebook. There were whole Facebook groups that were politically aligned, either for Hillary Clinton or for Donald Trump, and they would come out with just flat out lies about the two candidates, and people would 100% buy it and share it with their friends and family. I mean, those things do have that has an effect on people.
Yeah, and that's what's led up into this current sort of was it shared outrage about fake news. You know, it's that we've suddenly passed this tipping point where we realized, oh well, wait, there is a ton of junk out there on the internet that isn't true. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
Yeah, and something really recently actually that just happened, like just this past week. I don't know how much of you really pay much attention to like stuff that goes on YouTube or anything like that, but I'm an avid YouTube watcher, and something that really happened recently was one of the largest YouTubers, PewDiePie, has been attacked by the media, and
I saw that.
I don't really suggest like his content. I mean, some of the stuff can be interesting, but it's not really something that I would suggest people to watch.
Right.
But he's been accused of being anti-Semitic recently for some jokes that he made. And yeah, the jokes were probably pushing it a little bit. But these media outlets literally went to his producers basically and pushed them into a corner and caused them to drop PewDiePie from their network. And basically screwed up his life. And now everybody who just listens to the media and takes it as is now thinks that this guy is a racist, when in reality it was a joke that was taken a little too far.
Poorly considered jokes, yeah. But yeah, information, that's pretty much been one of the fruits of the digital revolution, if you will. We have so much information out there, including obviously fake, maybe obviously fake, but we are in a very real danger of information overload. Basically, just trying to take everything that's coming in at us, and just trying to filter it. Really, that's the really big name of the game right now, is who can offer the best filtering service to get into something that's manageable to digest.
Right. It is.
Yeah, there's so much information, and like information is a good thing. That's technology. It can be a good thing, but I kind of have this general perspective on most things that humans create is a lot of it is good, but too much can be a bad thing. And I think the like media or our digital technology is one of those things. It's a great thing. It can really help advance us and help us to reach out to people, but too much of it can cause major problems.
Yeah, one thing that really stuck out to me, actually, I think a few weeks ago, that I heard from the great and powerful Wizard of Oz, Dr. Moeller.
Yes.
The great. But he actually said, he made a point. I think it was in chapel at one point on Southern Seminary. But he said, like, basically, you look at the news today, and you pull up your app, and you look at Google News, and you pull up usatoday.com, and blah blah blah, and you look at the media. And this is specifically related to the news media. But with the news, you read it, and you'll become depressed in 5 minutes because they'll tell you about car bombings in Sudan, attacks,
Terrorism everywhere.
And
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah, and Trump, dear Lord, we're all, hellfire is raining down. And I mean, but I mean, politics aside, you just get depressed and you're like, wow, everything's going to crap. And I mean, it will start affecting you after a while. And even reporters and anchors have come out and said they just can't do it anymore after so long of just talking about how the world is burning. And Al Mohler said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I don't think human beings were designed to intake global suffering. We weren't designed to process the grief of thousands of people through what we can see and hear now. Because you'll go insane. Like, you'll literally lose it. Like, if you really stop, and I mean, we're actually just stone cold hearted. Like, if you really stop and think about everything that you read and everything that we see in the news, like what's really going on in those places where, or here or there, where horrible stuff is going down, like, why are you not crying? Why are you not realizing the sheer amount of human suffering that's going on? And we just, just keep on scrolling, but we just can't process it. We're not made to process
and that's
that amount
just
of information.
And that's just news, really.
Yeah,
then you pile on everything else, or I should say just regular world news. You pile on everything else, like news about your favorite hobbies, what's in the world of your favorite hobbies, news about your profession, your industry, what's happening there. Myself, I love to subscribe to stuff via RSS feeds. And one of the very real challenges I soon found out is that RSS feeds are great for keeping track of stuff. But the challenge is I have to curate which RSS feeds I have. I have to actually prune it down every once in a while because I added too many. And it just takes too long to go through all of it. And so I have to make some very real decisions about which information is actually useful, which information is actually helpful, which information is actually beneficial to me, especially as a Christian.
Yeah, and if I could interject on that note real quick, this is something I really was thinking about last week when we were recording. I really wanted to mention this is, when we talk about technology, any level of technology, there has something to do with the fact something should be said that the technology in and of itself is it's amoral. It's part of the stuff, it's stuff that we created out of the stuff. It has to do with human application. How are we going to apply it? My favorite, I think the best example of that would be the use of, now my mind is blanking on me. What's it called? Not nuclear energy. That's it. Nuclear energy. Sorry. My mind completely shut down for half a second.
Jiggle the cable.
Just shut up, Chase. Sorry, I'll make sure it's plugged in. But anyways, nuclear energy can be used as, it's one of the best energy sources that we have readily available to us. It requires, very, very little input. It's very green, if that's something that you're very passionate about, and it provides huge amount of energy, but it can also be used to devastating effects, as we've seen in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it's a whole nother discussion to talk about whether that was a moral thing or not. But the fact of the matter is, human application of how nuclear energy is applied can make a big difference. It can be used for great good, or it can be used for great evil.
And to be on a more ordinary everyday life, the same technology that streams us hilarious cat videos is also the same technology that people use to stream, videos of naked people doing it.
Technology. You just said pornography, Chase. Thanks for that.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the first things that kind of came to mind when you all were inviting me to come on here. Was talking about technology and like how it affects us as Christians. And I feel like pornography is one of the things that's really kind of permeated our culture through technology. And something I'm just going to throw out there that's kind of intriguing, that my pastor actually mentioned it this morning in his sermon. He said that the Greek word for evil is porneros,
Yep, that's correct.
and that's where we get the word for pornography. And that's something that is so easy to find on the internet, and
Can't avoid it
I'm
sometimes.
Yeah.
it's a struggle for like every person, and it's so readily available, so easy to find, so easy to hide.
Mhm.
So one of the, if I could kind of boil this down into some practical application, if you could say like one or two things that we as Christians specifically, as opposed to the rest of the world, should be aware of when it comes to how we use technology to glorify God, how we use technology, what we have at our we have unbelievable amounts of information that's instantaneously available to us. What should we be aware of as Christians, and how should we use this as Christians? And yeah, very much like you said, Connor. Like one of the first things that immediately comes to mind is the sheer amount of sin and temptation in that information that's now available to us. We have to be guarded against. You know, we could go on and on about how you go about doing that, but
In the end, technology is really just an extension of
yeah, it's a
That's
tool.
really what it is. And for better or for worse, it really extends the reach of humanity and what it can do, and both the ability to proclaim the good news of the gospel, or to wallow in the most debased, filthy material you can think of.
Right. Well, it in my opinion, it all comes down to human nature. Once again, we're corrupted. Our human nature is desperately sick. I mean, I don't love it, but I think that verse in Jeremiah says it so well that the heart is desperately sick. Who can understand it? We can't even comprehend with our mortal minds the ability that our hearts have for evil and for sin. And so, there is a redeemed value in technology. I mean, think about through the use of something as simple as the Bible app. I used to work in the telecoms industry selling smartphones, and I mean, I saw it on everyone's smartphone. Everyone had just you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Simple Bible app, the ability to get God's inspired holy word in front of literally billions of people that otherwise may not necessarily think, I really need to have a physical Bible. I need to go out and buy one. I mean, it's incredible. And then at the same time, like you guys are talking about, the ease, the ability to just completely indulge in binge and watching some of the most horrific things that the mind can delve, and
Conjure.
the effects. It can conjure. Yeah, the effects that it has on society. I mean, I think about those of us who, especially whether you're preparing to go into the ministry or not, as people who are preparing to be godly believers, those who are reaching out to a hurting, fallen world, we've got to be completely prepared for, to some extent, a problem that we have not had to face throughout history, and that is the effects of that much pornography on an entire generation of young men. What is this going to do to society? Those are questions that we're going to have to ask, and problems that we're going to have to answer as those who are seeking to be lights for Christ, those who are seeking to apply the gospel practically in the lives of our fellow human beings.
Yeah. How much technology is too much technology? Something kind of a little bit different than that, like kind of going on to it, is like what is the future of our technology? Like, this is something that's constantly growing, constantly improving, and we have stuff right now with prosthetics that are like being put on people so that they can use limbs that they had amputated or that were blown off in the war or something like that. Like, I know this is kind of moving a little bit away from the internet, but it's still part of like our everyday technology, and something that will be more prevalent in the future. And then you kind of start to think about like, well, what happens if we have, like, if this technology gets to a point where it's better than, or we perceive it as better than what we have, and so people start amputating their arms simply to get replacements. Like, we're throwing away our humanity at that point. So it's like, how far can we go? How far is too far,
That brings up to mind a point made in Tim Challies' book, The Next Story, about how a lot of people's perspective on technology is almost agnostic one. where the material world and thus the material body is evil. And it's interesting that you mentioned prosthetics and how people are replacing parts of their body, because heck, if you've spent even just a little bit of time exploring the world of cyberpunk, the predictions are both eerily reminiscent of today and scary in the sense of just the sort of world that they might actually be presenting. I remember, was it very soon now they're going to be releasing a movie based on Ghosts in the Shell, and I remember the basic story to the original Ghost in the Shell. But in that story, there are characters whose only remaining actual physical piece is their brain. They have an entirely cyborg body, and they go into questions of, who am I? Am I even an actual person? Because I have never seen my own brain. So,
well, they say,
go ahead, the technology is getting us to the point where, it's not just information anymore. It's very quickly going to be leading into a very concept of identity,
integration,
and reality.
Yeah, like what makes us human.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, it sounds kind of sci-fi to say it, but you have virtual reality that's become a big deal. You have human integration, as how much can we integrate technology to be as instantaneous as possible now. And there's a big, that is kind of the next field that we are reaching into now, is integration.
Yeah, just kind of something really interesting to throw out there, like to show just how close this is. There's a guy a couple years back who implanted a chip in his brain, and implanted a chip into his wife's brain, and he then drove off a couple hundred miles away and was able to communicate with her through the internet, through these chips that he implanted into their heads.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I would not doubt that technology is, can be constructed and would be available.
Even more instantaneous communication.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like you don't even have to access a device. It's just all right there in your head.
The final barrier.
Yeah, it's crazy. And on that note, guys, I think, kind of summing all that up, one of the things that we can really go with is a couple things that we really, Chase, did you want to make a point of application? By all means, let's just kind of sum it up, if we could.
What I would say is, in realizing the particular challenges of the technology that exists around us, especially with the sheer amount of information, I think Christians should honestly sit down and think long and hard about discernment, deciding between quality information and, obviously trash information. The whole noise versus signal. You don't want to waste time trying to dig through the trash, through the noise. So we should think about, when we're using our technology to get information to us, how much of it should we have incoming? We need to be mindful of the amount of time we spend trying to sift through all this information. We really should look for sources of information that are not too greedy for our time, and provide us information or thought that is truly beneficial and ultimately glorifying our lives to the glory of God.
Absolutely, I agree. That's exactly what I think we need to have as the end goal, is the glory of God. And Connor, did you want to make if you could make any one kind of point of application that you would advise, any Christian to, just couldn't consider? Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, it's just something that we have every day is technology. That's something we've pretty much established here, and the fact that we're dealing with it every day, we always need to be on our guard. We need to be wary, because it's so easy when something is so readily available, always there. It kind of becomes habit. Absolutely. And when something becomes habit, you don't pay attention. And when you don't pay attention, that's when bad things happen.
Right.
So it's just keeping that in mind all the time, being wary of what it is that you are looking at, what it is that you're searching for, what it is that you just come across randomly, and ask yourself, is this bringing glory to God?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really it. I think that's some fantastic ideas. Really be on guard, really carefully consider and be guarded about the knowledge and information and entertainment even that's being outletted to your brain and to your mind. And also, what Chase said, just beware of the flood. Watch out for the flood of information. And also to bringing that all back, I was really, in reading through Genesis 1 and 2 like I was some time ago, and really realizing that creation was designed to serve man and man was designed to serve God. Ultimately, that's the ultimate primary goal of both of these aspects. If we can use creation to serve God and glorify God, and I mean that can go into a whole another ball of wax, but that's what we need to understand is our creation, aka technology, to be, and that's what I really think about that. So anyway, some random
Andrew.
thoughts. What?
Andrew, anything really quick? Always plug in your monitor cable?
Yeah, always. That's a big deal. Is always make sure that you have a working VGA cable, and also make sure that your friends always tell the correct story. There's a lot of fake news going on at the beginning of this show. Let me tell you. But thanks everyone for tuning in.
Parting words.
Reborn Radio. Yeah, you got something for us.
Parting
Chase,
words. I
Shut
mentioned.
up,
Final thing. Parting words. If at all, please, I urge you to consider buying and reading Tim Challies' book, The Next Story. There is so much good thought, rigorous, laid out thought about technology. It really is, I believe, one of those top books that is worth it for every Christian to be reading. I can't imagine reading it without going, I could think of some changes to make in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
So,
thanks everyone.
Book recommendation.
Awesome. And we'll make sure always we do our best to post our sources. So we'll make sure to hit you guys up with a link on Amazon to Tim Challies' book. Thanks especially to Chase and Connor for joining us in these couple of editions of Reborn Radio. I'm sure we're going to have them back on at some point. We really do have a fantastic kind of online community with our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. And if you want to see some more interaction on that community, check out our YouTube channel. We have some great gaming videos where you can see the whole community interacting with one another. It's nothing if not interesting, that's for sure. So make sure to check us out on YouTube, subscribe, check out all those game casts, and hit us up on Facebook and Twitter and let us know what your thoughts are on this important topic that we need to be considering, of the application of technology in the lives of the believers. And we will look forward to seeing you guys next week on Reborn Radio. God bless.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Have a good night.